Why is the US market so much more profitable than the European? Hi. I am from Austria, and if you buy a house here for about €1 million, you can expect a net rent of Euro 2k a month. So about 2,5. On top of that you pay, depending on how much you earn from your regular job, 25-55. So if you have a regular job you can expect to pay 1/3 of that to taxes. Therefore you need to pay €1 million to get back about €1,350 a month. When I look up real estate on Zillow, houses that list for $1 million go for about 6-7k rent, which seems absurd to me. Is it really like that? Cause the US is a money-making machine, we live and breathe profits. Europe is great for poor and lower middle class people. However, if you're upper middle class or wealthy, America is better. We have 30-year fixed-rate mortgages that are essentially backed by government agencies. Lower rates, long loan lives, and easier underwriting standards. The USA is far more capitalist, has far more land, has stronger markets and stronger economy than Europe. Thomas, Americans complain about house prices lately, they are dirt cheap compared to the kind of salaries you can earn in the USA. Every day I thank the baby Jesus I was born in the USA. 6-7 yields seem pretty reasonable. Any investment getting less than that has to have very little risk to make it worth it. Why are rents so low in Austria? How much are property taxes and insurance in Austria? In general they are tremendously high in the US. Example, I have a house in Florida, $230k USD purchase price, 677 used mo goes towards tax insurance. I have a flat in Czechia, 275k USD purchase price, 15 used mo goes towards tax insurance. That's 8k less expenses than the US property of similar cost. It doesn't explain everything, but it does narrow the performance gap between EU and US properties. I think everyone should remember that there is another component to real estate investing. That is the capital appreciation rate. Factor that in when investing in a appreciating market. And be wary in a depreciating market. Real estate can be a good hedge against inflation. People are always going to need a roof over their head. Holy crap. I rent my 200k homes at 3 interest for $2,500 a month. How the hell other countries can profit, you'll never understand. On top of this I profit 1.1 million a year and only pay 60k in taxes because of all the tax breaks in America. This is the easiest country to become wealthy in. Europe has combination of slow-growing demographics, stagnant economy, less robust banking system, energy inflation, higher taxation, and older infrastructure. World capital flows also favor the US over any other country or region. With the current state of the world, it just intensifies the trend. The US real estate market in particular will beat out whatever Europe has to offer for size of home, quality, and amenities for price per square foot. It's actually illegal by law to earn money in Europe. That's why they take 50 as a fine above 60-70k. Anyone that earns above 40k is an outsider and a disgrace. Freedom? In my market 1 meter house will get you 3-4k in rent. My guess is that Americans are more conditioned to view stocks as a preferred investment vehicle, while most Europeans are told that stocks are risky and, if they invest, view real estate or interest as safer investments. My wife is from a European country and can confirm the view that stocks are too risky and that the bank is a better place for money. More investment, proportionately, drives down returns. Too much regulation in Europe. Tax policy combined with mortgage regulations structured to encourage home ownership. This is the single biggest source of wealth for most people in the US and is largely inaccessible to the typical European. Fundamentally, the US is much richer than Europe as a whole. I think because the US has a culture of not having multi-generational homes. There is such a huge demand for homes and a low savings rate that very few can afford. Imagine living in a country where the main two things that prevent economic mobility are college debt and medical debt, both of which are exploitive systems. Few people truly beat the system, both of which are either subsidized, covered, or severely cheaper in other modern countries. Don't move here unless you have a great job. Therefore you need to pay $1 million to get back about €1,350 a month. In the US you can get 4-5K a month by simply buying T-bills with $1 million. Europe has public homes. Can we go back to the first line of 2001 million.025? My math gets 0.002, which would be 0.2. If anything, the Austrian way seems to favor the rich already. Personally, I can afford to slowly buy 250k duplexes and eventually have a decent portfolio. If properties are 1 mil eventually I could have one, but would probably want to live there myself. You care about things like work-life balance. We care about dollar. You prioritize balance. We optimize pedal to the metal, go 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 baby. It will be significantly better than in EU, but in most markets it will be nothing like the suggested number. Think closer to $4,000. EU markets have more rent protections and are concerned for tenants. With a few exceptions, like several CA regions, the US is brutal toward tenants and is all about maximized revenue. Airbnb has decreased supply in many areas, thereby further exacerbating the issue. This post is for those bubbled up Americans who don't have a passport or don't travel. European life and values are different. You can meet people that live off of 40k a year happier than those who make millions in the States. Go for a month and experience. Europeans can care less. Capitalist versus socialist countries. Because the good old US of A has a total of $93 trillion in debt that keeps the good times rolling. What could go wrong? If allowed, please link an example of 1 meter generating 7k per month. America is a capitalist country while EU is a socialist system. Spot the difference? It's being manipulated and the government is too broke and slow to keep up. Austria bans foreigners from owning land in many cases. You can buy a $350,000 house in the USA and make $5,000 a month. We've had a policy for like almost 100 years now that tries to make it as easy as possible to afford the American dream of your own home. So home ownership is tax advantaged. And investors ride that coattail of advantageous taxes. At times mortgages are heavily subsidized and many government programs exist that make it easier to buy. Owning real estate is a slow way of growing wealth. So that lease rate in Austria is insane if true. It will take about 40 years just to earn what it costs before accounting for any other expenses or taxes. Probably closer to 70-80 years after accounting for interest, taxes, and other expenses. Wild. I assume there aren't many places available to rent? True. Lower taxes leads to higher rents and demand is stronger. That's showbiz, baby. So that lease rate in Austria is insane if true. It will take about 40 years just to earn what it costs before accounting for any other expenses or taxes. Probably closer to 70-80 years after accounting for interest, taxes, and other expenses. Wild. I assume there aren't many places available to rent? In the US, rent prices are driven by supply and demand. In most European countries, rent prices are driven by government-owned and operated subsidized housing projects. As a would-be landlord, you basically can't charge much more than the government-subsidized rates, or no one will apply. Why would they, when there's a government-operated housing project just a few blocks away that's charging half of what you'd need to charge in order to be profitable? Europe has very strict rent regulations. At least in Spain there is rent control everywhere. In the US there are just some complexes with rent control in some areas. More land, more growth. US dollar is the world reserve currency. Enjoy it while it lasts. The US more efficiently exploits the working class.